So, we were studying about the behaviors of our mind. So, 5 types of behaviors we have been studying. 5 types of behaviors. So, first one is right measure, second one is wrong measure, and the third one is empty measure, the fourth one is sleep, and the fifth one is recollection. So these are the 5 types of behaviors, chitta vrittis. That is what we were studying. So in this we have already studied to some extent about the right measure and the wrong measure, pramana and viparyeya. So we have seen some examples also about these, the right measure and the wrong measure, how we come across in our daily life. So, we have also studied that there are measures that are existing in nature. They are eternal, they are unchangeable. And there are measures that that means the human mind makes for convenience with agreement with all the people. So these are man-made measures, like what we are, for example, we are trying to measure the time with our units. For example, 60 minutes, 1 hour and 60 seconds, 1 minute, like this. So these are the measures. This is example. So we think generally that the time is there in the watch, but watch is only a symbol of time. Time does not exist in watch, because if the watch stops, if the battery is finished, then the time does not stop. So we have, from the person who has first invented watch, so he wanted to watch the time, so he prepared the watch. So the measure that is existing in nature, we wanted to measure it, we want to make it from it our own measure. So we measure it. Suppose one day somebody says that for convenience we can make 100 seconds is a minute, 100 minutes is an hour, 100 hours is a day, like that, kilo time, like just like kilometers. Now we have the kilometers and all, kilograms and all this, like that, kilo time. But that is not possible, that is why nobody made this kilo time till now. So the measures that are there in the nature, like the colors, the shape, the numbers, all these measures. That is why first the measures are there in creation. That is why you find a wonderful sentence in the Bible. It is said in Bible that God measured everything with measure. and numbered everything with number. So that is mystic, but it explains the real thing behind. So we are using the numbers, but the numbers are existing even before we started to use them. So it is the Creator, the God, who numbered everything number. So He made these numbers exist through the number consciousness. And so we are using these numbers as measures. So measures and numbers, these are all there existing before. Similarly, a newly born child, just soon he is born, he starts breathing. If the child does not start breathing after being born, that means he is not alive. So the child who is born immediately starts breathing, inhaling and exhaling. So how can he do that? So it is not possible that he knows that he has to inhale and he has to exhale. But he is doing it. That means this is there, this phenomenon is there as a measure, which is already there before we are born. And after we are born, we are using that. So like this, the real natural measures are existing even before we are born. So every one of us, even the solar systems, all that who have come into existence, so before itself there are the measures. So after we come into existence, then we come to know about the use of these measures and we use them. But they are eternal. Suppose the span of a solar system is finished and it has gone into the background, into subjective state. And once again, another solar system came into existence and started all the activity. Then also, everything is followed like before. You see, all the functioning of numbers, colors, shapes, all these are used like before. They operate like before only. There will be no change. So these are all the measures that are existing in nature, which are eternal. And many are the measures that are created afterwards, that are invented afterwards by the beings, created beings like us. So this we have to always remember. And so if we use the measure in a right manner, it is a right measure. So if I say that a particular object is white, so for everybody can identify that it is white. Suppose if one of them says, no, it is not white, it is yellow, when 99 persons are accepting that it is white, and one of them says, no, it is not white, it is yellow, that means he has some problem in his sight, which is called color blindness. So therefore, the right use of the measures which we make in our daily life. But also, wrong measure also used very often in our daily life. This we have seen, we have studied last time in our last class. Most of the things which we use them through wrong measure only. But we make a right use of a wrong measure. That is what it is going on. If wrong measure is not there, then our life activity in this mundane world is obstructed. We cannot continue that. Because all the transactions what we make between persons are based on a right use of wrong measure only. So it is necessary that we have to use wrong measure, but in a right manner. If we use a wrong measure in a wrong manner, then it is a catastrophe. It creates confusion. But even wrong measure can be used in a right manner. Everything. Suppose if I say this is a book before us, is it a book or is only a paper tied together? Some papers cut into equal size and stitched together. So, if you call it is a book, it is a wrong measure only. So, it is a bundle of papers tied together. Okay. So, is it a paper or what we call paper? What is the paper? It is the pulp of some plant substance like bamboo, which is crushed and which is brought into a shape that we call paper. So is it paper or is it pulp of a tree? Yes. So when we call it a paper, it is wrong measure. But still we make a right use of a wrong measure. If you see it as paper, then only you can use it. If we just only remember and see it as a pulp of some tree, you cannot use it. So like this, there are thousands of examples from our daily life, which always we use wrong measure only. Vikalpa. The first one is pramana, second one is vikalpa. So mostly we use vikalpa only. That is why our life in mundane plane is possible. Otherwise it is not possible. But we have to remember that it is a wrong measure. So in the very beginning, Patanjali first told us that there are two types of usages. One is complicated, one is non-complicated. So if you can know it, how to use it, then all the measures, five behaviors, you can have non-complicated. But you can complicate your life also by a wrong use, complicated. So there are five which are complicated, there are five which are non-complicated. They are not five separately, but the same thing we can use complicated or without complication. This we have to remember. So in these five, the first one is right measure, pramana. The second one is wrong measure, vikalpa, viparjaya. Pramana, viparjaya. Viparjaya means inverted, that is wrong. That is. So, we experience this in our daily life every time, but we do not observe them. That is why we are not mindful of them, what is happening, what we are using, all these things. So now because we are studying the sutras of Patanjali, Patanjali wants us, because before you get the behaviors of mind suspended, you are expected to know the behaviors perfectly. Without knowing the behaviors, how you can get it suspended? You cannot get it suspended unless you know thoroughly about the behavior of the mind. So that is why first he is explaining the behaviors and then he will explain how we have to get them suspended. That is our next thing. But first we have to know about the types of behavior of our mind, chitta vritti. That is what we are studying now. And the first one, the right measure, once again, so the right measure is in three types. So there is further classification of the right measure. So the right measure is direct exposure. There are three in the right measures. So pramana right measure, there are three types in this right measure. Three types of applications. So these three types are, one is pratyaksha. Pratyaksha means direct perception. Direct perception is that which is before our eyes, which we can see before our eye. Suppose I say, there is license. When I am speaking with license directly, then I can say that there is license. So this is direct. So similarly, any object also. If I have a book, so then I can say this is the book because I can see. So this is pratyaksha. Aksha means eye. Pratyaksha means that which before the eye, with which our eye has a contact, that is called pratyaksha. Suppose there is a tree before you. So your mind is perceiving through your eye this object which you call tree. So you know that there is a tree because your mind is receiving the image of this tree through the sense of the sight, by the operation of the sense organ of sight, which we call the eye. Sense organ and sensing. Sensing and sense organ, the corresponding organ, the eye. So, Pratyaksha means, Pratyaksha means Pratyaksha. This is one, this is called direct perception. This is one of the first things of the right measure. Direct, it is called direct exposure of the mind through the senses to the environment. Direct exposure of the mind through the senses to the environment. This is called pratyaksha. So our mind is exposed directly towards the outer objects, either through sight or through hearing or through smell or through touch or through taste, through all the 5 functions of the senses, which is directly your mind gets into contact. So pratyaksha, mainly it is through eye. That is why it is named as aksha, pratyaksha, before the eye. Because sight is the foremost one to make a perception. The other organs also, the other senses also. Suppose somebody is uttering loudly, Om, like this somewhere. Even though you do not see the person, but you can hear. So through the sense of hearing, your mind gets into touch. So this is pratyaksha. By any of the 5 senses, you can have the perception. So any sound or any shape to the eye, all these are what we use, and any smell also, or any taste. So all these are pratyaksha. So in pratyaksha, because we have our mind is directly exposed to the object, there is no questioning about this. If I say there is a tree before my eye, if I say, then nobody can question me, how can you say this? Because it is before the eye. I can say that. Because I listen to this sound, I can say that. So like this, there is no questioning. So this is out of the 3 types of the first pramana, first measure, right measure, the first one, this is the pratyaksha. But this pratyaksha has limitation, it is limited. Because how far our eye can see, there is a limitation. You cannot see beyond certain distance. Similarly, how far your ear, through the ear you can hear, but they are also limited. Like this, what you can perceive through the operation of the 5 sense organs, that is limited. Beyond certain limit, you cannot further have the perception. That is about the direct perception or pratyaksha. Pratyaksha is direct perception, direct exposure of the mind through the senses to the environment. That is direct perception. It is limited, it has much limitation. So, when direct perception is not possible, how you can perceive? That is through the second one, which is called anumana. Anumana is indirect perception. You cannot perceive the object through any of the 5 senses directly, because they are not directly, it's not exposed directly. But how can you perceive then? By inference. So this anumana means inference. Suppose you see a smoke. So you see the smoke, by observing the smoke with your eye, with your direct perception, you can see the smoke. So then you can make an inference that there is fire. But fire you have not seen. Fire is not seen by you directly. But you can perceive, your mind can get exposed indirectly to the fire by inference. Because there is smoke, you can say there is fire. Suppose I am sitting here in a room, closed, and an aeroplane is flying over my house with big sound. So then I can say, without directly looking, I can say that an aeroplane is passing over my house. How can you say that? Because from the sound you can detect, you can know that a flight is going over your house. Like this, you see, you can perceive so many things even though they are not, you are not directly exposed. Even then you can have the perception. So this is what is called inference. So inference or indirect is what is called anumana. Indirect perception. Suppose we are walking on a road, then we see there are many people who have gathered at a particular place. Then your mind can see only people who have gathered there. Then first of all, your reaction of your mind is that there is something happening. How can you say that something is happening? Because there are so many people gathered around at that particular place. Suppose another example is, we went into a park and we are sitting on a bench in the park. Then we have seen a piece of cigarette thrown just beside the bench where you are sitting. Then you can say that some fellow has smoked a cigarette sitting here on the bench. How can you say that? Through inference. So indirectly you can say, you can make this is what is called inference. Through the direct perception, the first one, which we call pratyaksha, through the direct perception, that you can use as a right measure and also as a wrong measure, in both the ways. When you use the direct perception, it can be used as a right measure, and also you can use it as a wrong measure. How? For example, you have heard some sound, somebody has come, some sound, somebody is speaking. When you happen to hear that person is speaking, then you can say that, yes, for example, I heard the word of liaison. Then I say, liaison has come. When I say liaison has come, is it a right measure or a wrong measure? Even though it is direct perception, but it is a wrong measure. How can you say it is wrong measure? Because I said liaison has come. Is it a person on liaison? Because when I get the blood of liaison tested in the laboratory, can you find anything like liaison? It is not possible. So you see how can you say that then she is liaison? So we can only for the physical world, so for the mundane aspect, you can see, but what you see, what you say, mostly is a wrong measure, it is an inversion. So all the things, most of the things which we use we are using them in the form of inversion only. So for direct perception, pratyaksha, that is why direct perception is very limited. So mostly we have to apply inference only. We have to apply inference. Because the anumana or the direct perception fails after some extent. Then we have to use inference only. Indirect perception. That is inevitable, most of the things. So most of the things which are necessary for us in our daily life, they are all based on inference or anumana. Inference. So inference is important for us to make our life possible, daily transactions possible. That is, inference is necessary for us. Because the right measure or pramana, by inference we get more clarity of the pramana, use of pramana. By direct perception, we generally think that direct perception, we can see directly, that is more useful, but that is not more useful because that is limited. Direct perception is very limited. So always we have to use inference. There are so many examples we have. We have to remember right measure, wrong measure. And we have to use right use of the measure, wrong use of the measure. And in this measure, direct perception and then inference. So this is the subdivision in the right measure. Direct perception, pratyaksha, and anumana, these are the divisions. So for example, we see a pot which we use to keep water in there. We call it a pot. But actually, in fact, what you call pot is not really existing. It is only the clay. The clay is really existing. But we see the object as a pot, we call it a pot. So is it a right measure or a wrong measure? It is a wrong measure only. It is not a pot, it is clay. So a pot can be broken, but clay cannot be broken. So what is temporary and what is ultimate, we can know by the use of this. So this is why measures are very important, because our mind is exposed to the objects outside, and this exposure, how it is getting exposed, we can know by this type of classification, which is absolute and which is relative. We can know from this. In this example, pot is relative and clay is absolute. So from this example we can know, when we go deeper and deeper, what we see as objective plane is relative. What we see in the subjective is absolute. So to know this absolute value and absolute existence, we need these measures, to apply these measures. Then only we can live happily. So this is the importance. So first one is pratyaksha, or exposure of a presence before anyone, or all the five senses. That is pratyaksha. And inference is indirect perception. And in this inference, it has nothing to do with the object that is exposed to the mind or the senses. That is why it is called indirect perception. First one is direct perception. The second is indirect perception. So there is no need of direct exposure to the object in this indirect perception. For example, you are sitting in a room with the window open, then you have a wonderful smell of a rose, but you don't see any rose before your eye, but still you can feel the smell. Then you can make an inference that there is a tree, a plant of roses just behind the wall of your room. So this is an inference, you see. So here, smell is direct perception, while the plant of rose is indirect perception. You cannot see the plant directly, but you can infer. Without the aid of the eye, you can understand what is existing. That is inference. Without the use of your eye or any of your sense organs, especially your eye, direct vision, without this, you can know, your mind can be exposed and you can know the existence of the object by inference. So that is the second one, inference, anumana. So we can mostly we have to use this inference in our daily life. So because of this only we can happily make our life possible. If this is not there, everything, if you want to see by direct perception, it is not possible. How can you see? See, some people argue that unless I look before my eye, I cannot believe. That is foolish. What can you see? Huh? Suppose this is daytime for us. What you call daytime is because sun is perceptible. But after some time, it becomes night and it is darkness. Suppose then we say, if you say that the sun is there on the other side of the earth, I say I don't believe because I don't see anything. That is foolish. How can you see directly? Your vision is limited. So this is a foolish argument that many people, they want to put an argument which is foolish. Whatever I cannot see myself by using directly through my eye, I cannot believe that. That is what the people say. That is why they say, if you say God, I cannot believe. You need not believe it. You need not believe anything. But you have to know that you have to make an inference. Otherwise, you will be lost. If you cannot use this inference, you cannot. You see, still another example, which is a bit hard. I will give you this example. You have the photograph of your father and mother. Suppose if I ask you, who are they in the photograph, in the picture? Say, she is mother, he is my father. What is meant by mother, what is meant by father, if I ask? What can you explain? And if I ask you, how can you say that? Of course, you can, mother, it is okay. But father, how can you know? It is foolish. You have to accept. So, direct perception is not possible everywhere. You have to know this limitation of this pratyaksha. It is not possible. Even in your own body, suppose there is, I say, if you say there is heart inside you, no, I don't believe because I cannot see. Hang yourself, you have to say. You cannot show this directly to me. If I have to show you directly to me, I have to cut it and bring it back, bring it out to show you. By that time you are not there to see. So it is never possible at all. So that is why you should not be foolish to insist that we cannot accept something which we cannot see by our own eyes directly. That is foolish. So we have to know how many means of perception are there, we have to know, but we have also to know the limitations of each of them. If you don't know the limitations, you are lost, you are blocked. You block yourself. That is what is happening. So that is why direct perception or pratyaksha is much limited. It has much limitation. It is limited. Beyond certain extent, it cannot be used. Suppose there is a hill, and above the hill, from other side of the hill, in the night, you see some light which you can see focusing over the hill. But then you say that there is something very big festival or something going on, some exhibition or something is going on from which the beam of light is focused and you can see over the hill. So you have to, when you see this strong beam of light, then you can say that something like exhibition is going on. You have to make it an inference. You cannot see. An inference you have to make. So that is why the second one is called inference. So unless you accept the limitation, you cannot go further in that. So this inference in our life helps us in our life that in most of the instances, situations which we come across in our experiences, we can make ourselves, because there are some situations where there can be shocking instances. From that, we can be saved by use of this inference, the second one. So our suffering will be reduced if we apply the inference. So when we go further higher, then with this inference, you can say, you can realize what is there in the background which is responsible for our existence and for all our activity, all this. So you can reach that by using this inference. So inference is so important. Anumana pramana, the inference, it will lead you to the highest understanding, highest realization. You can get into realization of what you call God or the higher consciousness by using inference. That is why most of the people are blocked. When you say God, then they say immediate reaction is, I cannot believe. You need not believe it. If I don't see sun, if I am sitting in my house, closed all the windows and doors, and in the morning after sunrise, if somebody says, now it is daytime, sun is there. No, absurd, I don't see any sun. then you cannot, nobody can help you. So inference will help you when you grow over this, when we rise over this, it will bring you into the experience of that which is subjective. So in most of the things, people think that they are asked to believe. You need not believe anything. To believe something is something primitive. You need not believe. Through inference, you get into the experience. So there are many things in this creation which you can get into the experience of it by using this measure inference. That is very important. Then there is a third one also. In this pramana, or the right measure, first one is pratyaksha, which is called pratyaksha pramana. The second one is called anumana pramana, which we call inference. And there is the third one, which is called agama, agama pramana. What is agama? A few examples. If I say Everest is the highest peak in the world, will you accept it or not? You say, I cannot accept it because unless I see. How can you see that? How everybody can go over Everest and prove himself that it is the highest? But all the people in the world are accepting that Everest is the highest peak in the world. Mount Everest is the highest peak in the world. How even yourself, without not being able to perceive it directly, how everybody can believe? It is not belief, but yes, you can say it is a belief, but it is not blind belief. It is called agama. It is also a pramana, a right measure. Because if it is false, then how many billions of people can accept this fact? Only a few people can verify it by themselves, but those who have verified, they told that it is the highest peak. Billions of people are accepting this. Why? Is it a blind acceptance? No, it is a trust. That is called agama. Suppose the president of a country suddenly died, passed away. So immediately you get into news channel that the president has passed away, or you get into newspaper that so-and-so, the president of this country, has passed away. If you say, I can't believe because I have not seen, if you can't accept, yeah, because I have not seen, I cannot believe, you have to accept it. How? Because if it is false, what you have seen in the newspaper or in the news, that the president has passed away, if it is not real, then that fellow who has produced this will be put into jail or sentenced. So nobody dare to do it if it is not real. So you are very sure that it is real, it is a fact. That everybody knows that it is a fact. When it is given in a news channel or a newspaper, when it is declared that the president of the country has passed away, then how can you, you should not say that it is, you cannot believe, you have to accept it, because it is authenticated. This is what is called agama. By word. Through word. This is the perception or measure or pramana. This is through the word, accepted word, that is agama. It's called Sabda Pramana or Agama. Sabda means word. So, everything you cannot verify by your direct perception. How can you do that? Not possible. If somebody has gone into the moon, planet moon, through a spaceship, and he could see directly what is there, and then he has given the information. Then it is announced to everybody. Then if I say, I have to verify it, how can you verify it? You cannot. You have to accept it. So you cannot say that. Similarly, in the science lesson, if it is explained that Earth is going around the sun, if I say I cannot accept it by verifying it, how can you verify it? You are standing on the earth which is going around the sun. So if you have to verify it, you have to go into the space to such an extent that you can see directly that the earth is revolving around the sun. Even then also you cannot see. The phenomenon cannot be seen. So how everybody is accepting this? So these are all examples for agama. So that is why agama is understood as the word, and this is technically called Veda. That is why Vedas are the scriptures, are the examples for agama, this type of perception. Veda is not a book, though it is copied in the form of a book. Any scripture is like that. It exists as a law in nature, the law of nature. So every substance, every planet, every solar system and every cosmic unit of creation behave in its own way, guided by the law. So this is given in the scripture. We have to accept this because it is authenticated. So this is example for agama. So we know something more also about this agama in our next class. Thank you all for your presence and for your attention and for your eagerness and readiness to go deeper into the study of this subject. Thank you. Vasudeva.